Well, good morning, everybody. This is Bill Cloud, and this is On This Day. Today is the 24th day of the month Adar. And it was on this day in the year 1451 that Pope Nicholas V issued a bull that banned all social interaction between Christians and Jews. His motivation for setting this boundary was a fear that Christians would become Judaized. Indeed, any Christian who converted to Judaism or who adopted what was considered to be Jewish practices, and you can read into that, keeping the commandments that were written in the Torah, the person that was guilty of this would be subject to the death penalty. That's the way it was throughout all of Europe. And so, personally, I'm very glad that I was not born into 15th century Europe, because if I were doing then what I'm doing now, I'd probably be hunted down and likely killed, as would many of you who are watching this. Now, I certainly don't advocate Christians or believers converting to Judaism because, frankly, Judaism doesn't have it all figured out. But I'm of the opinion that Christianity doesn't have all the answers either. I don't believe that Maimonides nor Rashi and everything they said is gospel. I don't believe it should be followed to the letter. But on the other hand, I don't believe that the church has replaced Israel, as many Christians believe, and consequently, because they believe that they've replaced Israel and God's done with Israel, they're exempt from keeping God's commands. So as far as this latter point goes, Paul wrote extensively about this strange and sometimes cryptic relationship between, as he terms it, the natural and the wild branches. And one of the primary points he makes in Romans 11 is that it's really the wild branch who has the responsibility to awaken from its slumber before the natural branch can awaken from its slumber. He says this in Romans 11, beginning in verse 25. For I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. And so all Israel will be saved, as it is written, the deliverer will come out of Zion, and he will turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. Paul's point is that all who are part of this tree are partly blind, and that includes believers as well. And so it is incumbent upon those who are called the wild branch, that is, the believers in the Messiah, to awaken to all that God wishes for us to see before the natural branch is awakened to what it has been blinded to. Furthermore, Paul makes it very clear that he regards both groups in Ephesians 2, circumcision and uncircumcision, that they are both to become one body in Messiah and because of the Messiah. So for the last 2,000 years, the adversary has exploited the desire on both sides, that is, the circumcision side and the uncircumcision side, to steer clear of one another and to spend most of their time pointing out what's wrong with the other side. But let's face it, both sides are wrong, at least to some extent. Yes, both sides see something that the other side should see. Both sides embrace some things that are true. But both sides embrace things, philosophies, and mindsets that are wrong. And therefore, if you look at it in that way, then both Christians and Jews, those who are part of that tree, both took part in and partook, I should say, of the same tree that the woman ate from in the very beginning. That is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so, what I'm trying to say is this. It's my conclusion that our goal should not to be like the Jews. Our goal should not to try to be like Christians. Our goal should be to be like the Messiah. Only by following Yeshua and trusting in Him will these two become one. In fact, that's the very reason that Yeshua came to this earth. That's the purpose of his death and His resurrection. That is what He wanted to accomplish, that these two might become one. So in our day and time, the Messiah is regathering all of His people, all of Israel, including those people who have trusted in the Messiah. As circumstances around the globe begin to deteriorate, remnants from both of these sides will cease seeing what's wrong with the other and will start seeing what the other has to offer. And when we come together, what we're going to discover is that his people are going to find it necessary on both sides, the natural and the wild branch, to be grafted into the Messiah. He didn't come to keep us apart. He came to bring us together. And with that, we come to the close of today's devotion. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow. Shalom.
Like what you're hearing? Become a Bill Cloud Premium Partner to watch or listen to hundreds of hours of teachings and resources on demand. Go to BillCloud.com/subscribe to start watching today.